David Cox. I'm the Managing Director of the Gas Forum. The Gas Forum has been in existence for 20 years. 20 years ago, I worked for British Gas, the big bad monopolist, and we were excluded from the membership, the initial membership of the Gas Forum at that time. To celebrate the 20 years going forward, we've decided to invite chairs of the Gas Forum and some key participants of the Gas Forum together today to bring together a video for your entertainment.
The Gas Forum was formed because there were several competitors that had entered into the market, and we needed to speak with some sort of common voice and sit and negotiate with British Gas Transco. And Ofgem also wanted to have a single counterparty with which it could understand and speak to the industry itself. So we set up a meeting, we arranged for the organisation of the Gas Forum. It was agreed that we would set up the Gas Forum. Lovells, the solicitors, were invited to draft the constitution of the Gas Forum. It wasn't a particularly difficult task, but there were two key elements which I think have survived to this day. And the first was that it was to be a democratic organisation in which shippers and suppliers all really had a say in how things were going to go. They might not win the argument, but they had a say in how things were to go. The second thing was that since it involved all of the competitors in this area of the market, it was important that it had very strict rules about compliance with competition law as well. So to make sure that we didn't run into problems with the competition authorities. So both of those factors were featured heavily in the Constitution, and I believe they still do.
I think the process worked, and it worked well because it was fundamentally an open process with nobody there wielding a big stick. Perhaps a contrast with today. The three parts of the industry were really working together. As for achievements, well, one, for the Gas Forum at least, we had some members who you could say were slightly unreasonable. They were commercially wanting to keep what we knew as monthly balancing. Many of you now won't know what that concept is. It is so wrong. It doesn't work. But we kept talking within the Gas Forum, and we finally won. But the main achievement, and one which is spread in various forms throughout the world, is entry-exit. It is an elegant concept of, I think, genius. Who thought of it? I've no idea. But without it, competition could not have got going so quickly, given the multiple gas terminals in the UK. And those multiple terminals meant, as you've mentioned, Peter, point-to-point transmission is impractical. Not only was entry-exit a breakthrough, but it unwittingly provided Europe's Henry Hub, the NBP, the National Balancing Point. It was neither designed as a trading hub nor expected to become one. It just happened, and trading largely moved from the gas terminals to the NBP.
Well, this is a time to laud the progress that the Gas Forum has made. And I think the first point that we should really make is that the Gas Forum in its original form, of course it's adapted to change and it's grown and all the rest and all those things, but it has lasted the fire of being put into use. It's lasted for 20 years, and I think it is laudable to all of those involved in the Gas Forum and keeping it running forward, that it plays such an important part in the day-to-day running of what is a very successful gas industry in this country. So I think the first and most important thing to say is to applaud all of those people who have kept the Gas Forum going and kept its essential ethos of being reasonably democratic in the way that it reaches its decisions. And that was the starting history of the Gas Forum. And I think we both sit here and we wish the Gas Forum every success into the future.
Very much so, in an uncertain future with these politicians around.
I served on the board for a number of years, and issues that we tackled included the development of the Supply Point Administration Agreement. I was against as an I&C supplier because we didn't think that that was good for that business. There were repetitive efforts by Ofgem to change the emergency cash-out arrangements, the development of entry capacity auctions and long-term entry capacity auctions, then exit capacity auctions, hourly balancing, and various versions thereof. I chaired the group that looked at the sale of Transco's or National Grid's gas distribution network. This somehow, for Ofgem, meant that exit capacity auctions were reintroduced or relooked at, so that came into the mix.
Another highlight was the Forum's involvement in security of supply discussions in the winter of 2005-06, where I represented members in discussions with the Prime Minister's Senior Policy Advisor at Downing Street on ensuring that if there were any supply disruptions, that the issues could be minimised. This also linked into the Energy Emergencies Committee, which the Forum has been involved in since its inception, from when it was called the Gas and Electricity Industry Emergencies Committee.
Well, my reflections on what has changed since 1996, I think for the better, we've seen more open and transparent processes in terms of regulatory decision makings. And I think that's brought about a sort of professionalisation of regulation and more evidence-based decision making, which on the face of it seem very positive. But perhaps for the worse, it has involved less vision and regulators driving forward the agenda from the point of view of a guiding vision rather than focusing on the evidence and the regulation. And I think other things that perhaps less good in terms of the regulatory environment have been the fact that the regulation has become more prescriptive, more intrusive, and more politicised, to be honest, and that has meant that we haven't been able to work with the regulator as closely as we once did in terms of developing things from a bottom-up perspective.
I think we thought when we first had the early gas forum meetings and appointed people to work groups that Ofgem would have maybe a bit part and we would have a kind of progressive lightening of regulation, and of course that never ended up happening. And now we have the challenges of integrating the UK industry into a European context. And obviously the work that the European group does is pretty important as well. I think we always realised that as we moved, it was exciting times as we moved, well I say exciting times, but it was challenging times when we moved from being self-sufficient in gas to being import dependent as well. And all the issues with interconnectors and prices at either side of the border. And obviously all the European network codes which are coming into play from 2014, it's really important that the Gas Forum maintains its role, and especially for UK industry, if there are the big issues that affect us as a country within that European network, then we do have as many common positions as we possibly can. Ofgem have obviously moved forward from some of the early days as well. I think we were all learning at the start.
It's taken for read now that competition is available in the gas industry. But don't forget, it wasn't until, I think, 1998 that we had full and universal competition across the Great Britain gas market. What has changed since then? Well, I guess we've had the Europeanisation of the energy market and the gas industry. Not, I'm sure, always for the better, but nevertheless it's here and we have to deal with things as they are, not maybe as we would wish them to be. Which is probably a significant change from the 1990s, when we all had visions of the future and how we saw gas competition and the almost carrying the torch for competitive markets in gas in Europe. We went through a very arduous process in negotiating a network code for the gas industry, which I did check through my records, and I think was signed on the 26th of February 1996. Unbelievably, nearly 20 years ago now, that we had a transportation arrangement within the UK gas industry that would allow shippers to ship their own gas across the system as, when and where they wished.
During my period, Gas Forum played a very important part in trying to get the gas industry voice to government and to the regulator. We actually participated in the development of SPA. We actually created a gas industry governance group, which we've affectionately called the GIG, which actually developed the arrangements for metering competitions to exist. While I was chair, we negotiated with GEMSERV to actually take on a license to use the MRA to actually create SPA. I think it's one of the arrangements where industry got together and actually threshed out how competition should develop. Gas Forum actually produced the expert groups that could challenge government and could challenge the regulator. It had very, very bright people and had very detailed understanding of industry knowledge and industry issues that could be brought succinctly towards the people who needed to understand the arguments. I think with the Gas Forum there, it allowed industry to agree how to take competition policies forward. It allowed competition to develop even more vigorously, creating the platforms for competition to exist.
I think one of the real great successes of the Gas Forum is when it's been able to work very closely with the regulator and the market participants and customers to develop proposals from a bottom-up perspective. And that's where the Gas Forum, in terms of its early days, was very, very successful.
It's been both interesting and a pleasure in many ways to see how the small organisation as it started, with a group of people getting together out of necessity to drive the industry forward. My apologies that I can't join you for your annual luncheon on the 20th anniversary. Good luck to you all, and may the Gas Forum continue to flourish.
I've been involved in the initiative to bring David Cox in as the new MD, to reduce the size of the executive down from about 9 to its current 4. I have been involved in refocusing the Gas Forum on its core values, in its working groups, and also to try to increase the profile of the Gas Forum, as I say, mainly through the use of David Cox as the MD. Well, the Gas Forum originated or started because of a need for an industry voice to stand up to British Gas in those days, later Transco, in particular in the evolution of or the creation of the network code in the mid-1990s. In those days, it was quite straightforward. There was a common opponent, and the industry tended to sing more or less off the same hymn sheet. Over the years, the gas industry now is a much more complex organism, and there are many more interest groups within it. Yet, throughout the years, the Gas Forum has represented all or a majority of these interests. It becomes more and more difficult, however, these days to find common issues upon which everybody is united, and some of the interests in the industry have become more and more fragmented. I think over the last few years we've tried to increase the profile of the Gas Forum, as well as try to get the Gas Forum to concentrate on its core values. Its core values are really its working groups. Much work in the industry is done in the closed sessions of the working groups, but at the same time we have tried to promote the profile of the Gas Forum to increase its membership and to demonstrate the benefits of being a member of the Gas Forum to the industry in general.
As you can see, a lot has changed over the last 20 years in the gas industry, but the Gas Forum remains an important body to promote the interests of gas and gas shippers in the industry. We will continue to do that, and we look forward to another 20 years of active participation. Thank you.